All right. We back once again. It's not the last Thursday of the month, but we definitely back again. This is Man in the Mirror. The what?
The show that matters.
The talk show.
The talk show that matters.
Yeah, you can't take it away from how you
it's the talk show that matters.
Okay, we got.
According to Mr. Ryan, you gotta use that right.
Yeah, you gotta get that right.
Gotta get that right.
So we're here for another segment, and we're so excited about this one because the nation is in flux again for our people, and the squeaky wheel is getting more squeaky.
Falling off.
Yeah, it's falling off. Riding on rims.
That's it.
So I'm gonna first I gotta introduce my panel.
There you go.
First of all, before I even start introducing, I'm gonna say Mr. Grimes is going through some things, so let's pray for him and his family.
Yes, indeed.
And he's behind the scenes once again. He's been ducking his action.
Yeah, he on the production side.
Yeah, he gonna get.
He's trying to get 2 checks.
At the end of this month, he's gonna be right over here on the 23rd.
Yeah.
But right now, he's making it happen behind the scenes. So I'm gonna go to my left, and Miss Pippi Longstein.
Yeah, speak up to that.
I got the fabulous, world-renowned Miss Amy Joyce.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And to my left, the very inquisitive, just very knowledgeable, and just, I don't know, I always respected the way you think, Nate Jenkins.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Amy Cakes. He's not the most loud, he just nosy as heck.
And ask questions.
Yeah, so, and to my right is our esteemed colleague and point guard, Mr. Boo Jones.
Hello, Mr. Jones.
Okay.
So we
kick it right over.
Yeah, we get ready to, this thing gonna be dynamite. This the topic tonight, I can just tell the topic, but I'm gonna let Nate do the rest. The topic is Nate's show today, y'all. We all take turns. This Nate's show got, we had to postpone last Thursday, but we had to make it up, and we're here for y'all. It's parenting.
Yes,
and
indeed.
I'm gonna let Nate introduce his esteemed guest, our esteemed guest.
That's right.
Mr. Nate Jenkins, you got the ball.
Hey, family, once again, it's Nate Jenkins here, and today's topic is parenting, saving the next generation.
Okay.
Okay? And the premise, real quick, before I throw the guests in there, is 4 quadrants of parenting, 10 years apart. First one, ages 1 through 10, the instructional years. They don't know nothing. We need to be telling them everything. The second one is 11 through 20. We talk about governing. Based upon our family knowledge and traditions, how do we govern the information and govern those individuals so they be successful? The next quadrant is that 21 to 30. We as parents, we're just advisors. Because as you know, once they get 21, they don't let you tell them. But we can advise them on the day-to-day issues as we know from our own wisdom. And then that last quadrant, when they get 30 and above, it's time to be their friend. A loving, caring friend, right? You want to make sure they're successful. But instructions, that's pretty much over with. And if you do any of those things out of order, you kind of run into a little mucky muck. So today's distinguished guest, I'm going to start with my left. We have a young lady who is primed from creating workforce development opportunities for youngsters in the government and commercial space. She's a parent in her own right. Now I understand she's a grandparent as well.
Me too.
A product of Washington, D.C. 78 babies. Yeah, on the Carnation plan. That's Miss Eboni Young-Meekins. All right. And then to her right, the distinguished. I'm talking distinguished. She done raised half, if not more, of all the folks that are probably between the age of 15 and above that came through Southeast DC, Boys and Girls Club organization, and the DC Department of Recs.
Okay.
The Director of Cause and Champion of Children, Miss Teresa Green. Now, we're going to have some folks call in around 7:15. We're going to have some clinical dialogue with one of our guests, Miss Regina Ames out of Wilmington, Delaware. For those of y'all that are not familiar with Wilmington, Delaware is a predominantly black town. And they go through every issue that you would go through in a rural environment and in an urban environment. So gangs are prevalent and all that. So she's working in that community.
Okay.
Then we have Miss Catherine Trotter, who is a nationally known life coach, as well as she runs programs nationally in the art space to help youngsters express themselves and collectively grow up on a positive nature. So we have a dynamite show today, and let's save that next generation. All right? All right. So we're going to start out with Miss Young-Meekins. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Native Washingtonian. I love children. Didn't used to, but I have grown to love them. Mine's and everybody else's. One of the things that in my career, I found myself in the beginning wanted to be a doctor. Somehow life took a pivot, and I ended up in workforce development some 20 years ago. And I've been doing workforce development within Washington, D.C. I've worked with Paxton Learning Services. I work with the D.C. National Guard. I landed at DYRS, which is my heart. I love that that agency. And now I am working on a federal government project to build a program. So I am rooted in young people my entire life.
So you say, so you married?
I am married. I forgot that part. Right?
How many kids?
I have 5 children.
How many grandkids?
I have 1 grandchild, one precious, lovely, beautiful, adorable, energetic, very inquisitive, sassy. She's 4.
Yeah.
So
Is she spoiled?
my heart, she is definitely a rotten apple.
That's what you're supposed to do.
And Grandma did that to her, and I will
It's so
That's
funny that you can do that and sit up
That's a whole
there.
nother story.
We're gonna get into that. Let me let y'all know. We're gonna get into that because we've been indoctrinated with some things.
Yeah.
We're gonna straighten out on the show.
Yeah, we're going to straighten that out.
I ain't never drank no spoiled milk.
I ain't never seen no
never
rotten
ate no
kid.
eggs.
I ain't never seen no rotten kid.
I ain't never ate no rotten.
I see some
anything.
spoils.
But we use those words, rotten and spoiled, and then we celebrate them.
Okay.
And then we say, why that boy kill up everybody over there? 'Cause he didn't get his way. He was spoiled,
Okay.
rotten.
And when somebody told
Misguided.
him, then when somebody told him no, he didn't know how to take
He didn't know how to take it.
Because he was never taught the tools. But
I'm
before
not
we get into that, before we get too deep now, before we get too deep, all right, let's reel it back.
We get ready for this.
Point guard, let's reel it back, point guard.
Man and D-Mirror, we take a look at ourselves.
Yeah, that's why we in the
That's why we
mirror.
call it D-Mirror.
Absolutely.
All right, so the next, we're going to roll right into Miss Teresa Green. Tell us about Miss
I
Green.
am a native Washingtonian.
Whoop, whoop.
Ward 7.
Yes.
Yes.
Right by 8.
All public school, all DC public school, from elementary all the way to UDC. All DC. I have been in the youth development movement for over 55 years.
Woo!
Yes, and I absolutely love young people. My favorite age group to work with are teens and young adults. They don't ever think anybody listens to them. If you stop and listen to teenagers, they are amazing. They just need somebody that cares, somebody that will listen to them. And I always tell people, little kids hold on to you and they don't want to let you go. Teenagers, once they trust you, and you have to earn their trust, they're just like little kids. You can't get, you like, leave me alone, get off of me. But it's just the age group that I absolutely love. I retired from Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington in 2020. I can't tell I'm retired, but I did. Officially retired.
You may know somebody that I know that works for the organization.
Who is that?
Not Jahan. LeVar Jones.
LeVar Jones?
Yes.
I hired LeVar Jones as a team director at FBR.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's Miss Green right there. That's Miss Green right there. Everybody come through Miss Green.
That's an student alum.
Okay.
This is what we gotta know. We're gonna have Miss Green, and then we're gonna have Alexandra Miss Green coming next week. I mean,
A lot of green is going on.
I mean, yeah. So what I'm trying to say, you gotta recognize the company you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You recognize the company that you're in. Yeah.
And he does the Youth of the Year program.
Yes.
That was my program before I retired. We handed it over, and I'm still a coach.
Yeah, my son's name is Duran Johnson, so he is like he took him up under his wing.
Wow.
For all types of things, like they volunteer with the.
See where it started right there. It started right there.
Yes.
She started that.
Graduation, LeVar is just
He's
so
amazing,
awesome.
amazing.
Takes all my kids' graduations and it's just been very, very active with all the kids. It's he's a dope person.
So that's what makes it work, right?
It is.
Because
It is. It absolutely is.
You might get 1,000 that don't give you no credit, no
love.
Yeah.
no love,
No love.
and just take it for granted.
But that's the.
But
joy
then you
about
get
what we
one.
do.
Yeah, you get one.
Yeah.
You don't
The
even
joy
want.
about what we do.
That's
You don't
all it is.
necessarily see the immediate return on your investment.
Yeah.
But like when I'm walking down the street and somebody said, Miss Green,
Come
and
on.
I had that kid 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they're doing good, and they got a family of their own. So that's what makes the work so important and so good.
Well, I tell you this, Miss Green. My daughter, who's a budding hip hop star, singer, rapper, and all that, as you know, Janae Music, shameless plug. No shame, but a plug. Janae Music on all social platforms. Okay. She did an interview, and they asked her about her foundation and some of the things that shaped and molded her, and why they thought she was so beyond her years and the way she carried herself and all that. And she attributed a lot of that to the programs that she had coming up. See, I went to the Boys and Girls Club, Easter Branch. She threw that thing out there. And you know what her main goal, and she's a little disheartened now because she just got some news a couple weeks ago, was to take the money she makes in the music industry and reopen Eastern Branch Boys and Girls
Just
Club.
We were just talking about
We
that.
just talked about that.
And that's what she wants to do. People are like, you don't want to be rich, you don't want a Rolls Royce. No, she said, I want to reopen Eastern Branch Boys and Girls.
Because when they poured into her.
It's her life.
So we get ready to get into this parenting thing because all that is the village.
Yeah.
You know, we talking about
Yeah.
the village, and that's really the parenting that is missing now these days. I mean, it's real obvious. You know, nowadays we was talking before we came on screen, and you discipline a child even if you yell at them, the parent will come back and fight you. You know, yeah.
Because you know why? And this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to ruffle some feathers. Okay? Because they're not parents.
Your friend.
They're a friend. A true parent. A true parent. What is your role? What is your job as a parent? Is to be a steward of that young person's body, spirit, and soul. You are to protect those things, right? And teach them to become a productive member of society.
And let me clarify when Nate said body, spirit, and soul.
Go ahead.
Spirit is the mind.
We got one of our panelists, I'm sure,
So
calling
when people
in.
start thinking about spirit, they understand that's the mind.
Let me get
Yeah,
this.
Yes.
they get a mix.
You're on with Man in the Mirror. Who do we have on the line?
Hey, it's Catherine Trotter.
Hello, Miss Trotter. How are you? Welcome.
Good. How are you?
I am doing very well. We are here with our esteemed panel. We have with us Miss Eboni Young-Meekins, workforce development professional, parent. Miss Teresa Green, one of the legends of D.C. area, working with the youth and parents. We have, of course, my esteemed panelists, Mr. Boo Jones, Miss Amy Cakes, and myself, Nate Jenkins. And now we have our esteemed guest on the phone, Miss Catherine Trotter. Miss Trotter, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do with youth.
Absolutely. So I started a youth development program in 2002 in the Baltimore community, Initially, we just started with the young ladies, and then later we expanded to include the young men. When we started, it was just with Daughters of Destiny, really pouring back into the lives of the youth, the young ladies in our community. And then as we expanded it, we started something called the Speak Life Tour that included everyone. One of the youth that came to me and said, Miss Kat, we want our voices heard. We want to do it in a creative way. And so the Speak Life Tour was officially launched in 2013. This is the 10th year of Speak Life Tour, which gives the youth and young adults a platform, not only just performing in visual arts, but also for entrepreneurship. We have a Youth Entrepreneurship Expo coming up February 11th that kicks off at 1 p.m. It's open to the entire community. And so when we started again just with mentorship, and then that grew into a performing arts tour, which grew into entrepreneurship for the youth.
Excellent. Now, I've been involved with the Speak Life Tour for a while, and I tell you, she is fabulous. They travel the nation with that tour and give opportunities to youth. And one of the big things I think that I've seen that was important, Ms. Catherine, is how you take youth from one city to another city, and the youth from that city work with the youth from the previous. And now they networking, and because a lot of youth are kind of like stuck in this one little neighborhood, and that's the world. Right? But she gives them an opportunity to go around the country.
See, what we do here on Man in the Mirror, one of the main missions is to connect the people. So it won't be just an isolated Southeast Miss Green and Miss Catherine in Baltimore. We want to connect so we can have a powerful Voltron.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we were just starting to talk about the quadrants of parenting, but we got another guest. So hold the line for me, Miss Catherine.
Mr. Nate.
All right.
Nate.
All right, just a moment. Let's see, we got. Hello, you with Man in the Mirror? Who do we have on the line?
This is Regina Ames.
Good afternoon, Miss Ames. Just a moment. I want to bring you in.
You still talking?
Yeah, just a moment. All righty. Make sure we got everybody conferenced in. All right. We got Miss Regina Ames joining us as well, and Miss Catherine Trotter. So, Miss Ames, welcome to the show. You want to give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Okay, I am Regina Ames, as you stated. I am a licensed professional counselor, mental health, and I have a private practice. I work with adults. I used to work with children, but I generally work with adults now.
All right. And where's your practice located?
It's in Wilmington, Delaware.
All righty. I was just telling the panelists a moment ago about some of the unique situations in Wilmington. A lot of folks aren't familiar because it's such a small town around the country, but some of the urban issues that you guys have there with the youth and the gangs and all that is prevalent, same as a big city, correct?
Correct.
If not worse.
Yeah, because we're such a small state.
So you want to tell us just a little bit about some of your encounters that you've had with the youth and how you kind of work with those guys?
Yes, I used to work for an organization called Delaware Guidance, which was, we provided mental health services for children and youth and their families. And I did a lot of outpatient, it was basically just outpatient therapy, and trying to get the parents involved in the therapy with the children was a little bit difficult, but managed to get a few parents to get involved. And I also worked at Eastside Charter as a behavioral health consultant. Just any of the children that were having emotional issues, they would come see me. We process what was going on with them and just kind of work with them throughout the year and just give them that support that they needed.
Excellent, excellent. Let's give a round of applause to both ladies that we have on the phone, Miss Catherine Trotter and Miss Regina Ames. So we're talking about parenting and saving that next generation. We all have our life experiences as parents or mentors, dealing with youth in general. And here at Man in the Mirror, we like to take a look at our personal lives and also bring about solutions, because we're solution driven, right?
Solution driven.
So when I thought about this show of parenting, people always say it starts at home. It starts at home. But what starts at home?
Yeah.
Right? What are you talking about?
Home is broken and nothing.
Right. So when I think about, when I look at statistics, and I stated this earlier, in the penal system, the numbers say that the majority of African Americans that are in the penal system come from a single family home run by the mom. The next list are the same number, two-parent household and single household run by men. They share the same statistic, which is a lower number, right? And one of the things that kind of rang out in that study was, and as we talked about the little Instagram post the other day, was the way that America is set up with working and all that. If you take the mom out of the house as the matriarch, the nurturer, the caregiver, right, then there's a hole that's in the family. So if I'm the single mother, I'm working 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm exhausted. I got to get a little break before I can start my household thing. But then the child is being raised on social media and television.
So let's present that question to all the young women here.
Yeah.
When you hear them say it starts at home, what that mean to you?
Whatever's been instilled in me, hopefully, well, for me, good was instilled in me, that I'm able to pass that on to my kids. So it starts at home. But to be fair with that, everyone does not have that opportunity. By default, some children grew up with parents both strung out on drugs, or single family home, or impoverished, a whole lot of different things that could be the reason why things was just not stable at home. And then when you try to do your best and then raise children of your own, you're basically passing on energies and things that you either saw or been taught or emulated, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, for me, it's what I say about home.
Yeah, we're gonna let you come in right after Miss Green.
When I hear your statement, children don't hear what you say; they watch what you do.
Come on, baby.
Okay, and so if they are in a negative space all of the time, that's the behavior that they begin to emulate.
And you're about to say, was that Miss Catherine or Miss Regina?
Oh, I was going to say that environment matters. And when I'm saying environment, it's not just the environment in the home, but the environment of the community, the school, or whomever that child may have interactions with. So if I have two parents at home, or a mom at home, a single mom at home, and she's tired of going out, all those things that you just mentioned, but I have a teacher at school who sees me, or someone, a home monitor, somebody that sees me, who encourages me, who pours into me, that can all help to offset some of what's lacking at home.
So we back to that village concept.
Yeah, and just to chime in, my upbringing was a little different.
Tell us about
My
it.
mother was addicted to drugs, so I was raised in a single father household, myself and my two sisters, so he raised 3 girls in a single parent home. What I learned when I hear it starts at home, that was everybody talks about the village. I didn't learn how to be a lady from my dad. I mean, he was very tough, but I learned it from my grandmother, my aunts, the people around me. just being able to be in rooms with people who exhibited certain behaviors that I mimic to this day. And so it wasn't necessarily, you're not thinking about home as those four walls, but home is where that love comes from. That's the home. So that's the angle I come from. So
Ms. Trotter, you want to chime in?
Yeah, so for me, it really was all the women in the community, and not knocking my mom, but there was a lot of challenges, and so I didn't really have a close relationship with my mom. And I didn't find out really until later on the challenges that she was facing was rooted also from her childhood. But at the time, of me being a young lady trying to build a close bond relationship with a woman in my life, honestly, it was the quiet teacher at school, it was some of the religion from the church. But
We can't hear.
what happened was, later as I got getting older,
Miss Trotter, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it seems like we're getting an echo back from you.
Oh, I'm sorry, is this better?
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. So what I was saying, for me, it was the village. Like I had a mother in my life, but there was a lot of dynamics that she was dealing with and struggling with, and while she was dealing with that, I'm trying to grow up at the same time, and so the village aspect helped me because it was the choir teacher at high school, and then it was the ladies at the church. There were sporadic moments when me and my mom was able to make connections, but that real healthy connection honestly didn't happen until like late 20s going into my 30s, when we were able to actually have those honest conversations. And then I also had to get to the point to be able to let go, because for a while I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of resentment, but I had to let it go, because just keeping that bottled up wasn't going to be healthy for me. So it was a village that helped me. It was the women that helped me, and then not to take away from my mom, because then once we were able to start having those honest conversations, then I was able to really receive from her.
Yeah, well, my experience is just what the person on the Instagram stated. I came from a family, there was 5 of us. My mom started having kids in high school, and she got married at 19 to a guy in the Navy. So that meant we landed on the Navy base, he was gone. And you got a person that don't even have a high school diploma, raising 5 kids at some point in the game. And she ended up moving back home to D.C. where her village was, because she was struggling with us. But by the time we got back here, I was off the chain, and then the village that I came to was off the chain. And I had 2 dynamics. I had this street culture in one part of my family, then I had this very strict and regiment culture in one part of my family, and the religious portion. So as Ms. Green had alluded to, and I think everybody has stated, home is where the heart is. So where my heart was, that's where I emulated my behavior from, right? So when we think about parenting and the quadrants of parenting, and I go back to those 4 quadrants, what I've noticed, I did some mental health for a long time with youth as well. What I noticed was when those quadrants are out of step, right? The village that supports you sometimes have to replace some of the things that you should have or may have better gotten between 1 and 10 in that instructional years.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at 2-parent households, 1 parent in the house all the time, all their job is to raise those kids, it doesn't say their kids going to turn out perfect.
Exactly.
They just process things differently. Their morals are a little different. Their toolbox is a little more filled, and they're a little bit more nurturing and have a little bit different base of humanity. It's been my experience.
Okay.
Let me interrupt real quick.
Speak up.
So, okay, so how when we talk about what role the father or the man in the house has, and what the role for the woman, the mother, has in the house, the initial role, and we're talking like the 60s and 70s maybe, where the mother was the one that nurtured the children, that cooked, cleaned, these gender roles that we now challenge.
Yes.
Because some men, some, not all, are chauvinistic, where they feel that Now, my woman, she gonna be barefoot and pregnant, and she's gonna cook, and she's gonna do this, and she's gonna raise our kids, and she's gonna do this. And as long as I go to work and do what I do for my family, that's all I need to do. And so now in 2023, you have parents like myself. I'm a single parent of 3. I'm a grandma too. He's 1. He's so cute. I cannot even trade him in from Wednesday. He's so adorable. He's so stinking cute.
It's a different feeling.
It is, because I can just let him do whatever and then send him home. You know.
Yeah.
That's what being a parent.
Yeah, my mother used to do the same thing. We'll be in the car and we'll be in the car and I pass 50 McDonald's.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, "Stop and get us some McDonald's." Like, no, we have McDonald's in the house. Y'all heard that before. Yes. So,
Eddie Murphy.
yeah. But it's like, it's different.
It is.
In the 60s and 70s, they had the chauvinistic gender roles where women knew, I guess, their place.
Well,
And
I'm gonna
now,
push back on
20
that.
I'm gonna push back on that. Yeah, we're gonna push back on that.
I'm in the 60s.
I don't agree
I'm
with
in the
it, but
60s.
that's just the thought process.
I'm in the
that's
60s and 70s raising my family. I have 2 kids. I have my daughter. I have a daughter and I have a son. And I made the decision after 12 years of marriage to become a single parent. And so I knew that I was going to have to take a different trajectory in my life. I knew that I needed to build myself up so that I could take care of my children. And so I decided, I went back to school and I did some other things that would put me in a position to do the best for my children. But I remember clearly I was, superwoman. I'm going to do all of it. I don't need anybody to help me raise my son. I know how to raise my son. And the awakening I got was, I had my son in sports, and he was doing. A gentleman, a very close friend of mine, said, "Teresa, you cannot teach him how to be a man." Yes, no, you cannot.
Say it again.
Teach him how to be a man, cause you're not a man.
Right.
And that just opened my when I finally got out of my own way.
Come on, man.
And listened, that really opened up my eyes about when we talk about gender. And yeah, I did the cooking and the cleaning, but the pushback is that I wasn't comfortable staying in that role. I needed to have a different role so my family could be successful. But that whole thing about teaching a boy how to be a man,
yeah, and that's why I
And
put
it goes
mine
both
in a lot of
ways.
this. Yeah,
My father couldn't teach me how to be a woman.
and that's
It's
what
gonna be a lot of our viewers now.
Exactly.
It's gonna be a lot of our viewers. That's a topic right there. That's a debate right there.
It's a reality.
It's
check.
it's really not a debate if you're being honest.
I have two
what I'm
sons.
saying though, Nate,
Yeah.
in retrospect, it holds water. But it's a lot of people that beg to differ because I done heard it before. My brother, he'll beg to differ. My little brother, cause Shirley, she threw a party for me at 18. Had all my friends over, cooked for us, got us the ponies. We down the basement, and she left us alone. And so about 3 o'clock in the morning, my last friend was leaving out the door because the door is here and go straight upstairs to her room. And I slept in the basement. So I said, she said, "Boo, that's the last of your friends?" I said, "Yes, Mom."
I know what she did.
Thank you. I said, thank you. It was great. The party was great. We had a ball. She said, "What you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna go downstairs, get some rest, and I'll see you in the morning." But she said, Nah. I said, "Huh? Clean up." She said, "You better catch up with one arm."
Clean up and get out.
She said, "You better catch up with one arm." She didn't care about clean up.
Right.
She said,
Get out of
"You
here.
better
You're
catch up."
18.
She said, "Because I told you, when you turn 18, be prepared. You gotta go."
But you know what? I'm gonna say something on that line, right? So I'm gonna take it from a parent to a job, right? You are never successful at the job you weren't trained to do. You can get in there and mimic, you can fake your way through, but you will never be successful at something you weren't trained to do.
Come on, Nate.
One of the worst things that we do, and I'm saying we, men, black men, I'm speaking up from that standpoint, is to be able to tell another little boy that I've been so-called raising, your age says you got to go. But the question is, Dad, what have you done to prepare me to be out there without you? See, that's parenting. See, let me finish the point. So age is, like we say, it's just a number. It really is just a number. Because if you, it don't make you a man. But your job as a parent, but your job as a parent, I believe your job as a parent is to prepare that seed that you planted for the wind and the rain and the storms that is going to have that you've already experienced. Right? And you said earlier, Ms. Green, that they mimic you. But they're mimicking a grown person.
You can contest to this.
And if you're not parenting them and telling them how you got to be that grown person, then they always going to fall.
Me and you talk.
Can I say something?
Please.
So I grew up with both my parents. There was 10 of us. I'm the youngest. There were 4 boys and 6 girls. Well, the oldest 2 boys weren't actually raised by my mom and dad, because they were my dad's 2 sons by his first wife. Now, I feel like we all our lives we had our both parents in the home. They raised us girls, raised the boys. My brothers were not. They didn't have the skills that they needed. They mimicked the worst parts of my dad. Not the hard working, the ethics the work ethic that he had. They didn't mimic that part. They mimicked the other stuff that he did. But us girls, we were taught how those life skills that we needed. But boys weren't. So, I guess it depends on the parent.
Right.
They bring to the table.
And that's what we're talking about. So in essence, the initial is like a race. If I got a track team, right, a track star person, before I put him in the race, I got to train him to race. And if I train him to be competitive, the likelihood of him finishing the race, not necessarily winning, but finishing the race is very high. But if I just line him up and say run, I can guarantee you he ain't gonna make it to the finish line.
And I agree with you. I agree with you because just like in any other thing in life, like if you know how to box, you come in there, you think you can fight.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole different art to it once you get in the ring. Or once you get in the gym.
Speak up a little bit.
Once you get in the gym, it's a whole other art to boxing. And so I understand that. Now, I'm not saying that I was prepared that day, because like you said, Ms. Green, I wasn't prepared. I had to go up the street to my cousin's house, ask him could I stay there. And it's been a whirlwind since the Exodus. But now when I look back on it, whatever happened was tailor-made, like you said, being trained for what you do. All the turmoil, all of the calamity trained me for what God had me doing now.
Absolutely.
Now that is a true statement.
So he was training me,
right?
Even though it looked like all of the calls was wrong. The coach is
ain't put the play in.
Kicking the outside kick in the beginning of the game. So that's what my Raiders did. So,
right.
Yeah, but it didn't look like he knew what he was doing. The coach, but he did. The ultimate coach. That's what I believe. He knew exactly what he was doing. He got the right mom for me. He got the right dad for me. And they was.
That's your life story.
Yeah, they wasn't perfect.
But now we talking that's
perfect for me.
That's it. But that's the end result, right?
Yeah.
Where you are today.
Yeah,
we talking about the beginning.
So my question,
but we talking about went from a solution set, saving the next generation, as we talking about, and the importance of parenting, right, from a global perspective. Right. So go ahead. What you saying?
So just based off of what you're saying, because we're getting into saving the next generation, did you do the same thing with your child?
No, I had 2 girls, right?
Oh, you definitely didn't do that.
No, I didn't. but they wasn't living with me. They was living with my ex. Okay. So I didn't really have that in the house influence on them. So like they know my story. My oldest daughter passed away. So my youngest daughter, we really getting now kind of getting really closer. And then I got grandbaby just came. Y'all told me grandbaby.
Congratulations.
She just had a daughter, Zia, and she was born September 25th.
Oh,
Brand new.
brand
Yes.
brand spanking new.
So 2002, baby. And then I got the grandson from my marriage, and they know him, Booby. Everybody be 10 years old. So you know, I've been blessed, man. So what I'm saying is, it's sad, but we're trying to get the numbers right.
Right.
That's what we're doing here today. We're trying to get the numbers right so they can be more prepared. They don't have to go through some of the stuff we went through.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I mean, because the numbers was it was just numbers of us falling through the cracks.
Now I want to go back to something that Amy said about those gender specific roles, right? There's a reason for everything.
Yep.
And then when those things break, there's a reason for it being broken, right? And if you look at the broader picture, right, and I'm going to take this somewhere else, because, a lot of people look at me and say, well, you know something about parenting, Nate. And I said, well, I do, because I got 15 kids, right? Okay, 10 girls, 5 boys, 8 natural, 7 adopted. But I spent the majority of that time as a single dad. So when I did the whole piece as a single dad, it wasn't something I elected to do. I ain't raised my hand and said I want to be a single dad. I ain't raised my hand and said I want to be a adopted parent. Things just took place. But I knew when my first daughter was born, I made a conscious decision that my job was to make sure that she had the best chance at life. And it started with one realization, that my personal party was over. Okay? And because I had that realization with myself, it made it easier for me to parent all those other children and other people's children's, because I knew from a perspective that everything that I did, I had to share with them. My pains, my successes, right? I didn't hide anything from them because I did not want them to walk some of the walks that I walked coming up. So I had to inform them that these things are real. It ain't on TV. This happened to your dad. And I'm going to tell you the whole truth. See, I'm not going to be that dude that went to jail and tell everybody the stories about how we lift weights and everything was cool. No, I'm going to tell you about how you cry on the pillow the first week you're there. And how holidays and Christmas you get a paper bag with toiletries and that's your gift. You dig? And you can't, loved ones dying, you can't go to services and all this type of stuff. You just miss out on the whole type of life. And, all these things, right? So I had parked all that into my kids, but then it decided to me was that we had to, we as a team, me and my kids became a team. They depended on me for their life source, and I depended on them for my life source. But my direction was, I got to take care of y'all, and y'all got to hold me accountable to taking care of you.
And let me say this on the note, I'm going to get with the guests and ask them, because this is the thing. If I'm being held accountable, I got to be open. Because sometimes a kid, some of the best truths come from the mouth of a baby.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But if I'm deep parent, then I might not want to hear what they're saying, because sometimes it's what they're not saying, right? So what do you guys think about, being attentive to your kids?
Yeah. Are you the parent or are you the bully?
I think from the solution
That's the question.
perspective, kids, I think one of the things that we have fallen short is making children understand that there are consequences for their behavior. You can't just do something and it's okay and you just walk away from it. The other piece that you talked about is instilling some values. I'm a big proponent of values in that first quadrant. That's where they learn. So that integrity, that honesty, that trust, that respect. If you instill that in them in the beginning and you model that, don't, to your point, they don't see how you got to where you are. They just see the end result. They don't see the journey all the time.
Right.
And it's even in the social media, in this age now, they see all of the money that's being made by all of the artists and the celebrities, but they don't see the struggles that they had to go through to get to that point. They just think it's a sense of entitlement. They just think you put your hand out there and somebody gonna give it to you.
Know about all the deals that have to be
And that's
cut.
consequences for their behavior.
Oh, yeah.
And making good choices.
Right.
So
Self-pride.
your question was, am I the? Oh, go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, from my perspective, so I had raised my nephew from a baby. It was different dynamics going on with my sister. So I go back to the village piece. When he was born, I was young, and I raised him. And one of the things that I always had in the forefront of my mind, I looked at different things that I had went through, and I was still young raising him, but I had the perspective that I wanted to include him. If I had to make a decision on something, I wanted him to understand the underlying reason of why. You know, because I think a lot of times there's a gap because communication isn't there. And I do understand, you know, the parent has to be the parent, they have to be the leaders. I don't believe in the bully concept, but I do believe in education of explaining to the person, this is the reason why they can understand.
Patience.
So they can comprehend what's going on.
Yes.
So what I did with my nephew, as he started to grow older, also I because it was just me and I didn't have, you know, his father wasn't around, I reached out to the men that was in my village and I called them because one time I just didn't know what to do. So I called some of my male friends and I said, listen, I need you to come on over and I need you to help me mentor my nephew because I don't know what's going on. Because when he started getting into the teenage area, we started getting teenage things started shifting.
Yes.
So I reached out to my male friends and they came through for me. They came through for me. They came and mentored. They took him out, you know, and then they was coaching me, you know, schooling me on something as he was getting older in terms of how I need to engage with him. And so from that perspective, that was helpful. And as he continued to get older, then he getting out of high school. The one thing I said to him in his senior year, when he was about to graduate, I said, do you give me the permission to continue to be your coach? Because I didn't want to just assume that because he's about to turn 18, 19, you know, that he still won't listen to me. That didn't mean that he was going to listen to me. I said, do you give me permission to continue to be your coach? And he said, yes. And see, my logic behind that was if he want to flip on me, I'm like, you already gave me permission. And so I tried to do some kind of reverse mindset stuff with him, but also to make it like we are a team player. But he also knew that when Auntie had to lay certain grounding rules, that's how it was going to flow. But I always tried to explain the reason of why.
Yeah.
Jedi mind trick, huh?
Go ahead, Ebony. You was about to say, Ebony?
So I have been both, the bully and the parent, because with the different sets of children that I have 5 of them, but they came in 3 sets. And with the first set, my first daughter and my son,
You got twins?
No, they just were back to back.
Okay,
I was
that's it.
having a good time.
Okay.
So with them, I mimicked the way my father raised me. Really hard, really tough. It was very strict, right? They didn't have a lot of negotiating, wiggle room, a lot of communication. It was just do as I tell you. When the next 2 came along, the 2 girls, I was more nurturing. I was learning myself as a woman because, like I said, my dad didn't teach me a woman, so I was pretty much the guy. I'm just as tough as the guys. So when I had the second set, the 2 girls, I was softer. I was more understanding. I was able to hear them and see them and understand the development of the child. The first 2 would tell you, oh, my mother was hard. With the last one, I'm just, I don't know, a marshmallow. I'm cotton candy at this point. I truly believe, and then my career also helped me too, working with youth and being in workforce development and youth development. It also taught me about listening, being able to hear their voice, understanding the stages of childhood development, and so some of the behaviors are normal, so I didn't have to spank. Number 3 through 5, it wasn't no spankings. Number 1 and 2, I'm so sorry, I love you.
So, Ebony, so you basically answered my question. You were talking about being able to hear them without them saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But
you talking about you had to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when you are a new parent, For one, you don't want to break your kid. You know what I'm saying? They're new, they're fragile, they're, whatever. You want to be the best parent in the whole world. You want to be able to give them what you did not have, and you want them to not be a statistic. Like, all this stuff comes in your head as a brand new parent. So you're going to be extra hard. You're going to be very detailed on how you raise them, what they're eating, who they're around, all that. By the time you get to the 4th and the 5th kid, you let them fall off the bed. You be all right.
So you don't get a manual. That's what you just said.
Right.
You don't.
So
Amy, I want to challenge you on something that you just said.
Okay.
You said that with them, you listen, but you said because it stuck a chord with me. You don't challenge. You have to challenge them. You can't just let them do what they want to do. That's what it was. You said that you just kind of let them go ahead on and let them do what they want to do. But if you do that, if you don't instill the values and you just let them go and do what they want to do, that's how I know exactly what you said. You want, as a parent, for your children to have better than what you had.
I was going to go there. I was going to go there.
I had to get there.
I had to go there.
And that's what I'm going to challenge you on.
Yeah, that's the thought
That's
process.
the generation.
That's the thought process.
The generation. Every generation thinks
That, yes.
That's
okay,
us to
and
say,
so
we did.
sometimes I wonder though, did we get so caught up in making sure that our children have it better than we had, that we forgot somewhere along the way
Yes.
to discipline them?
Okay, hold on. Let me hit you with this one. Here's the problem with that statement, right? For one, it's the biggest lie that we tell ourselves as parents.
Yeah.
When we say, I want my child to have a better life than I did, right?
What we saying?
Who is defining better?
Right.
We're not defining better.
Okay.
Society is now defining for us what better is. So because we're following these societal trends,
We talking about things.
not just things,
More,
not just things, not just things. It's something about. Well, let me finish the point. It's something about sometimes, but sometimes it's treatment, it's voice, and things of that nature. So what I'm saying about the quadrants, like we went back to, right? If you think about the quadrants of parenting, and kind of stick to those year glues, right? Those 4 sets. As Ms. Green alluded to earlier with the value situation and so forth, as young parents, when we say, I want my life to be better than, my kids' life to be better than mine, we're looking at the better that we're told what is better, as opposed to what our parents instilled in us to be a better person, right? Well, let me
Where
finish
the
it.
quadrants come from?
Okay, but the quadrants are just a psychological evolution of the brain and growth,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So
it's
when
a study by somebody.
yes, so when you look at the quadrants of parenting and you say those first 10 years are the most informative, of course a child has a voice, but where's the voice coming from? If you are in a situation where you are instilling quality information and trust with that child, if they got an outside voice in their ear and they come to you with that, you're in a position now to explain, inform, even debate. You still listen, but you frame it in such a way that, because when they get to the governing stage, the things that you impart as a team with you and the child are the things you're going to end up having to govern. Right? And when you get to the advisory stage in their lives, those are the things you have to advise to and from. And when you get to the friendship stage of their life, those are the things that you guys are going to have to enjoy together. So if you one of the things that in essence of parenting, our first examples is our parents. That's where we get our keys from. And it was told to me by old sage, my grandfather. He said, you're not going to know what kind of parent you are until you see your children parent. Then you'll know what kind of parent you were.
That's a lot of truth in that.
And
There's a lot of truth in that.
And let me say something real quick. So, I was brought up in a single parent household. My father was in the picture, but did not live with us. So I've never seen a mother and father in the house doing the
So
whole
you didn't have a frame of
family.
reference for what that's supposed
No,
to
the whole
be.
nuclear family don't know. But guess where I saw it at? But it was even fragmented. Different strokes.
Okay.
TV.
Wow. TV.
The Brady Bunch. I saw so many different views of what family looked like, but it wasn't the nuclear. It wasn't like the Beaver. It was the Cleavers.
The Cleavers.
It wasn't that nuclear family. Because guess what? Yeah, they had the mom, the father, they had the dog, the brothers, they ain't had no sister.
And the mama stayed home.
The mama stayed home.
But they only show you one side of the dynamics.
They showed this side. They showed this side. They didn't show this side.
But even when you look at things like, here's a show that a lot of people miss the boat on. Good Times. Okay?
Yeah.
The essence to Good Times initially, and they changed it as it went along. The essence of Good Times initially was the family dynamic. Regardless of skin color, right? But as the show got more progressive, as the times turned, as we were going through those social times when Good Times was there, they changed the storyline and the casting because some of the cast was so ingrained into trying to make sure that the black nuclear family was shown and represented properly. They were going through all these strikes and struggles and successfully getting through them. But that was not the picture that they wanted to depict for the African American family. So they removed Dad out of the picture. They killed James off, brought in the football player, and made you think that playing football was the way you gonna go on. You dig what I'm saying? So you gotta understand something now. When I said earlier that those formulas that you talked about, Amy, with the gender roles and all that from the 50s and 60s, they still ring true.
They do.
But they don't ring true in the African American existence because we don't have a society that we create. We play a role within a society that others create for us.
On that note, we want the viewers to know this. These are our own opinions.
Right.
Yes.
We're not saying
They don't belong to the show. They're the individuals.
individuals.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Jack, Sprat, and Joe.
Yeah. So we want you to know, but there's some good dialogue here.
Yeah.
And you can go back and watch this over and over and get some jewels out of it. Because this is what basically what happens when parenting and life in general. You don't get a manual.
Yeah.
You just try to be loving and have a balance of loving and discipline.
Yes.
You know, that's what Ms. Green was talking about.
Discipline.
So to have that, hey look, I dropped the ball early on in my children's life. So I thank God that I'm getting some more chances.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So guests on the phone.
Miss Ames
Yeah.
and Miss Trotter. We're going
You can chime in.
Please chime in the next 15 minutes. We're going to open the phone lines up for callers. So, Miss Ames, Miss Trotter, would you please give us some of your thoughts on some of the conversation that we just are having?
Yeah, well, I'll chime in on the piece about the dads being in the home. My dad was in the home, and there was different dynamics going on with my mom and dad. I mean, it was a lot of arguments, a lot of fighting, there was a lot of things going on. And some may say, even some of my other siblings, I grew up in a blended family, right? So some of the siblings that didn't grow up in our family, they assumed that everything was perfect just because I grew up in a two-parent home, but that was not the reality. It was far from the reality. But one thing I will say, and I do agree with, is that there were certain things that my father could give me that only I feel that he could give me. There were certain things that my mom gave me. Even though there was different challenges in the home, I still believe that they had their own role. Like even like when I was raising my nephew, it was a point I did not know what to do. I called my male friends, so I do believe strongly. I know some, even in my peer group, feel like it's old-fashioned with that mindset, but I do believe a male has a specific role in the home and with the children. And when I called my friends to help me with my nephew, they was able to help in areas that I just didn't know. They were able to reach him in ways I couldn't reach him. And so to this day, even though it was a lot going on in the home, my father had an impression upon me. That's the only reason why, honestly, I even went into entrepreneurship. But the one thing I do respect about my father, even though there was a lot of things that went down, he was true. Kind of what you were saying, that you never try to play no mirage game or whatever. But Dad was straightforward, like, yeah, I did this X, Y, Z. He was always willing to own up to whatever his was. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I respected. And so that's my take on in terms of the father being in the home.
Miss Ames?
Yes, my story is similar to hers. My father, both parents were in the home, and it was tumultuous, at times. but mainly on the weekend. But I believe that had my dad not been there, we would have turned out a little different than what we did. Maybe because my mother wasn't given the discipline that my father gave. He was a little strict, especially with us girls. And then, a lot of things that I did learn from him that, and back then I couldn't stand him. I hated him. But as I got older and looking back and looking at what the value that he did bring to the family, I miss him greatly today because of some of those things that he instilled in us. But, and then when I raised my son with my husband, my son was allowed to express himself, so I did do it differently than what my parents did for me. But there were also a lot of similarities as well in terms of the structure in the household. But for him, he was allowed to express himself as long as he was respectful, because he did see things, and he had some insights into some things that I wasn't paying any attention to. But, and so we allowed him to do that. And, and now I see him raising his boys with his wife, and it's the same thing. He's even doing a better job than what I did with him. So, allowing, in terms of discipline and in terms of allowing them to express themselves and in how he teaches them. And, so just seeing the progression in each generation.
So it sounds like it started off with, as we talked about that first quadrant, the important part is the structure, the boundaries. So, what I know about, because when I did therapy with adolescents, I had, most of my kids were troubled youth. DYRS, Department of Youth Rehabilitative Services youth. These are guys that are in and out of juvenile detention. And I used to have to go into the detention center and do a lot of my therapy because my guys would just end up in there, right? and what I understand is, Ms. Green has said something about they want to be heard and listened to, in the later stages of life, as teenagers. But as youth, it's you can, from my experience, I can point out after an hour consultation with the youth of some of the holes that weren't there during those instructional years, because they are the bosses and assume them roles, right? It's kind of like what I tell my sons. If you don't want to be responsible for your life, there's a place called the penal system that will provide you with food, clothing, shelter, and instruction. So
you're saying if you don't want to be taught here,
if you don't want to be responsible for here, it's some people that will take over that responsibility for you at a price, right? So when I hear parents say, and when I used to work in school, my child need to be heard, and I would say to them, do we know what they're saying? You want me to hear them, which I'm listening, but now I'm listening to the parent. And they're not speaking out for their child. They're really speaking out for themselves, right? And what I've understood was parenting for me has never been a selfish act. It's a selfless act.
Absolutely.
The more you parent, the less it's about you as a parent.
And on that note, Nate, that's all the way in life.
Yeah.
Because I see it a lot on my job, the people talked about that they're caring and they honor the other man's opinion and stuff like that, but their actions don't say that. So we got to start, just like you said, they watch us. They watch us, you know what I'm saying? Be like, my grandson, he spent a lot of time with us. And he mimicked a lot of stuff. I noticed he mimicked. He want the same coat. He could have been around. He wanted like.
He's a funny little guy.
Yeah, he want to do, and that's a good
He want to do what Pop-Pop do.
And that's a good thing because today I'm trying to live right. Well, I'm living right. I ain't trying to live right. I'm living right to the best of my ability.
So what you're saying is, ain't nothing wrong with being a copycat as long as you copying the right cat.
Absolutely.
But, we talking about reaching back. We talking about reaching back into your childhood and getting no pearls. I heard the young lady on the phone talk about that. Some of the discipline was good after she thought about it.
It was.
I had a grandfather.
But you know what?
I had a grandfather.
But you know what? Imagine if your grandson was here maybe 20-something years ago. That was a different Boo Jones?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So you had
But
to
he
go
would have
through-
picked up on those
But
same
he would have picked up on those same characteristics, right?
He got you at a good time. where you went
absolutely.
through
Yeah, the
all
time-
that.
But see, Boo did allude to his own maturation
Yep.
getting to this point.
Yes.
So I'm gonna push back on something that you had said earlier about being thrust out at 18, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not prepared for the job, I'm gonna get one or two things. I'm gonna get beat up and quit that job, or I'm gonna get some on-the-job training.
That's what I got.
So you got some on-the-job training, okay, that now allows you to be the grandfather that you are.
Yeah.
But now we talking about parenting. See, you talking about post-life,
And I work in
Right.
the same field you work in.
right?
Somebody talk about mental health.
Yeah, all of us.
I work in mental health. Me and Nathan work together.
Yeah.
And I work in substance abuse, which is my passion. But I like working with the adults too. I like working with adults
Yeah.
because my philosophy, that's my calling. Now, I don't work with the kids, but I ain't something I want to do every day.
That's my call. That's my call.
There's so much fun though. It's so much fun.
You know what it takes more than patience?
It's not the patience.
Selflessness.
It's not the patience.
You got to be selfless to be patient.
I believe my calling is to work with the adults so they can be the right image for the kids.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, see, like you can go ahead and train the kids all day, but when he go home
On camera, we got to
and mama and dad out of order,
Yep.
then he's gonna say
the whole thing out of order.
that ain't what Mr. Nate told us at the group.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the
You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying?
experiences with that the young people had when they're released from the juvenile center
That's a challenge.
is because when they're inside the center, they're receiving a room to themselves, someone to listen to, counseling, a good meal, structure, some fun games. Someone is, it's a family structure. And just talking to a couple of them when they come back, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Because we send them back into that environment.
Right.
And they honestly have to survive in that environment.
That's
so they
right.
have to
That's right.
reassimilate themselves
That's right.
so they can survive. Because when you come back different and you're in a toxic environment, everybody in that environment is going to just now beat at you, pick at you, mess with you. Yeah. So then when they come back,
they know about that.
All day long.
and when they
day
come
long.
back to the
Grandmama.
facility
Mm-hmm.
and they tell you, well, Miss Young, you know what? I know I wasn't supposed to do what I'm supposed to do, but it's better in here than
It is all day.
And that used to
They do it on purpose to get back.
That's why-
Now, let's think about this,
Morals and-
everyone.
Yes.
Let's look at what's the
This is
solution.
what you just said though.
Yeah.
Hold on, before we get in that, don't want to glaze over that because that's very important. That's why, I say it's very important to train
The adult.
the adults.
the adults. Absolutely.
Because
And
we send them kids right back. Now, that's why we both trying it, putting this all together. She knows, I'm going to let you say something. I just want to say that's why we're putting all this together. So we can all, be in service to the whole entire family.
That's
Okay.
beauty.
what I'm getting in therapy are a lot of younger adults coming in saying, I want to do better. I want to get over the trauma that I experienced in childhood so that I can do better for my children, so that I can raise them
Thank God.
properly.
Thank God. So, when I think about parenting, and we, when we talk about parenting, we always talk about the child first, right? But I can't build a bridge if I ain't learn how to construct something first. So let's talk about the construction worker. Let's talk about the parent, not just the act of parenting. But when you think about it, because, I'm a direct person. When I think about the first mistake in parenting that I've made, that I've seen everyone else make, it's my choice It's my choice of who I'm parenting with. See, we all have said around this panel and on the phone the whole piece about mimicking and watching and all that.
So your coaching staff.
My coaching staff, but here's the thing. Here's a question I want to throw out there that we very seldom, I very seldom, put it on me, that I had to learn to ask myself. Now, some people on the phone and on the panel, everybody knows me personally to some degree. I think, Amy, you the one that know me the least. Okay? Miss Green has known me since I was a young parent. Eboni has known me all her life. Miss Ames has known me for years. Catherine has known me for years. And I want to say this one question.
I just met you.
You don't, and Boo has known me for too many years. So when we thinking about parenting, that's the conjoining of two individuals in an act of sex that ends up with a child, right? Nobody goes into the bedroom saying, guess what, we're going to be parents today. Except for me. I did that with my first wife. We was like, both of us wanted a kid because we thought our parents did such a bad job. We're going to do better, right? So we planned ours, right? That's crazy. But anyway, but here's the question that we don't ask ourselves when we're dating. Why would I want to be with a person who would want to be with a person like me?
That's a whole nother show.
That is a whole nother
Okay, but now when we answer that question, it says when we get to, before we get to the procreation piece, because you'll always hear these people, my baby daddy, my baby mama. If we took the time as individuals to know ourselves better, we'd make somewhat different, I can't say better, but different choices, not only in the people that we procreate with, but what do we do after the creation occurs? Everybody ain't gonna stay together.
We ain't got no couch.
Yeah, but everybody ain't gonna stay together. But if I chose Miss Green to have a kid by me, I'd be better off.
We got action.
Okay? So just we want to close, and we got
other callers.
We got a caller. Welcome to Man in the Mirror.
Hello?
Caller.
Yeah, this Keith and Danny.
Hey, Keith and Danny.
Keith and Dan.
Hug your wife.
Danny and Keith.
All
How
right.
you doing?
Welcome to Man in the Mirror. Have you guys been tuning in to the discussion thus far? We just being brand new. All right, let me give you a shameless plug. Keith and Danny, that's my brother and sister. Brother from another mother, sister from another dad. Right? They were original panelists, but Keith is having some health issues, so we're praying through that, Keith. And they are that traditional parenting set that we talked about. Dad went off to work, mama stayed home the whole round. And how many kids you guys got?
We just got 6. That's it.
They said that. Okay, wait a minute. So, okay, no, he threw that. That's a stab at me. That's a stab at me, right?
I got to put a plug in. My young cousin, she married a guy. I'm talking about, y'all won't believe. And it's 8 kids. I think they got like 3 or something together. And he just got his ministry thing the other day. Pearlie and Jessica Payson.
Okay. Throw that out there.
And this is the stuff they don't show about us, about Keith and Danny. They don't show this but here on Man in the Mirror, we're gonna illuminate the positive about.
There you go.
The people that they say that they ain't this and ain't that. We're gonna show you that that's not the norm for us.
All right, Keith and Danny, tell us about your parenting skills, man. Tell us about some of them kids you got, what they doing, and how you think your parenting skills kind of led to their path.
All right, I'll start off. I'm going to let Danny take over. Basically, my parenting skills were strict, set a more value with standards, God-fearing, making sure they were involved in church and education. Everyone had, and I'm not a college graduate. I did attend college. I did not finish, but I wanted to make sure everybody was a college graduate. And I told them that, unless you was in medical field or you was in IT, a BS or BA wasn't good enough. You had to get a master or doctorate. So, I think what we did, we set standards, and we kept to the standard. And at this time, we're on our last one. She's 18, a senior at Roseville High School, and she's being pursued by actually about 6 different colleges and everything. And currently, all the other ones have graduated. We have a doctor in pharmacy. We have a dual engineering graduate in Miami. We have one that graduated more social services, but he's in the athletic field. As a matter of fact, he's at the Pro Bowl right now because he's a trainer that recruits and everything.
Stop playing. He's one of the top trainers in the nation of NFL players.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Down in Miami with Brandon Marshall. And then we have another one who's working IT with AT&T and DirecTV. And then we have another one who's in Nebraska. And she's want to save the world because of her greenery education.
Molecular
and molecular biology. So that's where we at on that. And the process that I'll say what was the key was the agreement that my wife and I made when we were young and still in college and everything, that, I would be the man to provide for the home the best that I could, and that she would stay at home with the kids until they were old enough to, be on their own and, see them grow and experience the real things in life instead of handing them off to somebody else to get an experience. But most of all, she was at home mother, teacher, preacher, educator, I'll say everything. And with her nursing them and nourishing them the way that she did, they prosper and best the capabilities that they had. And I don't look back on it. I mean, we could have both been dual parents that worked our butts off and everything and probably be millionaires and everything. But I always said we're millionaires in my heart and in my mind because all of my kids, whenever we left for a trip or whatever, they were all millionaires. And I used to always wonder why we let them drive. I said, because I got 6 millionaires in the car with me right now, and I don't need to put that on you guys. And that was it, and that's the way we led. But don't let me take up the whole time. I'm gonna let Danny go on.
Go ahead, Danny. Tell us something.
Hey, yeah. Keith said it was strict, but we weren't really strict. It was we set standards, but we also kind of had to. Each one was different, so you couldn't discipline each one the same.
That's right.
Because one, you can say you're going to whoop, and they'll just, they'll just comply. The other one be like, give me a whooping. I'm not going to do it.
Right. Right.
So, you had everyone was just, different personalities. And that was one of the main things, that I said if I had kids, I was going to make sure I pay attention and listen to them. And that kind of stemmed from my childhood because I remember my father had told me, was saying I wanted to do something different on one of our weekend family outings. And he said, you always want to do different things and into all kind of different stuff. And it's just easier when, because there was 4 of us. Instead of all these different personalities just to do one thing. And I told him when I would never do my kids that way, I'm going to be different. He said, okay, well, we'll see. And I remember, I think when about the 3rd one was in college, and he said, "You really did listen to them and see who they were, and paid attention to, each one's personality and what they liked." And I let them, I didn't want to steer them into what I wanted out of them for life, but to see what they wanted, and then to help them to grow in that way.
Now, how much of that came from your mother and your father? I know them both personally, and I love them dearly. I know your dad was a big-time entrepreneur. I give him his roses while he's still here. He's one of the most successful black entrepreneurs in the Northwest United States of America, Matthew Barnett. Just outstanding individual. From all up and down the Northwest coast in the insurance industry. He runs all that, insure all the sports people, all that type of stuff. And then your mom was also, tell us a little bit about your mom, Danny, because I believe, I know Keith said you guys made a pact early on, but from what I know of how your mom was, I think you kind of mimicked a lot of her skills.
Exactly. Yeah, she stayed at home. She worked briefly from time. She worked when we were smaller, and as far as I can remember, when she came home, my aunt used to watch us because she was working as a nurse, and me and my sister we had gotten sick, and my sister and I was at home with our aunt, and she just was like, I need to come home and be with my kids. And so that's when I remembered her coming home. And I think, and then she worked briefly, like just little, like few hours here and there. And then she was just at home full time after my brother was born. And it really made a difference coming home to, Mom being there. She was there making sure we had our breakfast in the morning. She used to chase me out the house sometime with a breakfast sandwich saying, "You're going to eat your breakfast," and making sure everything, and showing, how to keep a house. And she was just, very instrumental in, how to run a home. And then, my dad was instrumental in showing us how he provided for the family and business, and, taught me about business and how to handle things. And so, yeah, a lot of them, I always, whenever we make big decisions, we always still call them, even to this day, but my mom, she's passed away, but I call my dad and, run it by them. We may not always have taken their full advice, but we take it in consideration, because I always look at that they were successful at what they've done, so their advice is going to be better than no one else.
So let me say this. For our viewers, we getting a picture of success among the people that was formerly slaves. We're getting a picture of success because they don't picture this in the media. They don't picture us like this. So this is very, very important, and I don't want that to not be seen as a pin. You need to put a pin in that. You guys still on the phone back here?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, we need to make sure the family all here. Yeah. So look, guys. We got about 30 more minutes, so we're gonna still chop it up. But we want everybody to know that this is not just a one-time thing with Man in the Mirror. We want all to connect. Once you come on this show, you family. We like pit bulls. You can't get away. So we lock in. So you family, and you're always welcome to call in, and viewers. And tell your friends. The best thing is word of mouth. The best,
without a doubt.
So because it's a movement. I'm gonna ask all you guys a question. And just, it's a short question. You just give me your, it's a yes or no, or this or that question. Is there more Afro-American men in the penal system, or is there more in college?
It's more in the penal system.
Oh, let's do math.
Well, you say everybody.
Okay.
He didn't say everybody, did he?
Penal system.
I think penal system too.
She say penal system.
Same.
What you say on the phone? What say ye?
Penal system.
Okay, penal system. We got all penal system. What you got? What you got?
Same.
Okay, Danny and
Keith.
Keith.
Penal system.
Penal system. I want you to don't just take it from me. Do your research.
It's more in college.
It's more in college.
It's more in college.
That's a good
It's
thing.
more in college.
It's more in
That's a
college.
good thing.
It's more in
It's more in
college.
college.
That's good.
But the way we're being viewed, and I know this for a fact.
We did it to ourselves just now. We all answered
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Because
And
we
the way
follow
we
the
get
information
that
that's given to us.
That's
Like
right.
I was saying earlier.
That's right. The
Our,
way we're being viewed.
our realization is not ours. It's what's being given to us.
Yes.
And
You said-
one thing that I want to commend everybody on the show thus far is that your open dialect and dialogue has been honest, right, from your own personal grip. And that's very important that we be able to tell our personal stories, right, without the exchange from outside interference. Now, what I know about parenting, what I heard from Danny and Keith, what I heard from Eboni, Miss Green, Boo Jones, Amy Cakes, Miss Trotter, as well as Miss Ames, and some of myself, is the degree of parenting has two things in common with a lot of successes in my life, right? And those are surrendering and selflessness. So when I surrender to the fact that I'm now the parent, it ain't about me solely, right? Now I can now provide in a selfless way to my children. My walk in dealing with children has been, when I engage with parents, the first thing that radiates from them is selfishness. And I don't mean not wanting to give or take. It's that they still see themselves first in the need category. Now, you want to take care of yourself so you then can provide for someone else. Like on the plane, they say put the oxygen on first, then help somebody else out. But in life, you got to do that same thing. You got to be whole if you got control and stewardship over another person,
And
another human being.
On that note, what I get out of what Nate's saying in a nutshell is basically that it's got to be a love component. And love, like Miss Green said, love ain't always letting you get your way.
Not at all.
Yeah, because if a baby to see the shiny knife, yeah, what the parent gonna do? Let them play with the knife because it shines? They gonna take the knife from them.
That's true.
And the baby gonna cry.
And it's, oh, go ahead.
No, Nate, you made a point about saving the child in the next generation, but you made a point about looking at the parent. That's what has to happen.
Yeah.
We
Because the
can't
parents
save
are
the
right.
children if we don't take some time, just like you working with.
That's my
if we
call.
don't invest in taking some time to educate the parent. We're not gonna ever get to the child. We're not gonna ever change the course of the child's life.
Because you change the parent, you change the environment.
Exactly.
Say, for example,
Like what Ebony was talking about,
Yeah.
returning back to that madness.
you talking about like, okay,
Yeah.
I used to work on 13th Street. Remember that night when I was working with Community Action Group? I worked on 13th Street, right? And Congress is a whole lot of gunplay around there. You can hear it.
Ward 8.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I remember coming down the street because I was catching the metro.
Congress High School.
Yeah. So I remember coming down the street one day, and the little guys you see out there, the very next day, they got a picture of them and all the teddy bears and all that. And I was just thinking, I said, you know, maybe if we change the mentality of the area, then maybe, it won't be trash around here. Maybe we can beautify some of the stuff, but the mentality has to change. So that starts with who's running stuff, who's in charge. Because the children is only mimic what they see.
Yeah.
So if we can, and I don't believe in a leopard can't change his stripes.
Yeah.
But we ain't no leopards.
But you know what? In that area that you speak of, it's changing, but it was not changing for us.
No, it's not.
I understand.
Well, that's the whole city.
Yes.
That's
That's another show.
Another show.
That's your show coming up.
Yeah, you can use that.
You can use that.
I'm
That's a whole lot down.
But you know what? On that
We
point
gonna
that you
start
making,
with
though,
us.
Boo. On that point that you making,
Yeah.
when we talking about a resolution, right? Resolve. When we look at the young folks today, we talking about parenting. It starts with the word parent, right? So before we can get to the teen part of action of raising somebody, we got to make sure that the ones who are raising are whole. Now, one of the problems with that is to be a parent, you got to be selfless, and you got to surrender to the fact that your party's over. So the problem that I see mostly now, mainly with social media and things of that nature, parents are still living that I want that glory that I see someone else have. Because very seldom do you see this on social media, that there's a star who shows their child, because they want to keep their child out of it. I don't want the public to see my child and all that type of stuff. Because what I want to show you is this facade of a lifestyle that you're going to try to run it behind. A lot of rappers rap about how other rappers aren't telling the truth in their rhymes. They ain't criminals. They ain't hustlers. They ain't all this stuff. They don't got all the money and cars that they rap about. But the consumer is consuming this information and modeling their lives after that information. So you said in charge, the man in charge. One of the first things that we have to do as black people, African Americans, is understand that we need to now take charge of our own existence, as opposed to having other people impart
Exactly.
who and what we should be. But how do we do that? Right?
Education, like
But-
what
but-
we doing here.
We need
Yeah,
a
but
village back.
I'm gonna be honest with you
We have
guys.
to stop.
Now, all you got,
Inside.
everybody gonna be mad at me,
Yes.
but I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you're a doctor and you're dealing with cancer, you cut the cancer out. Then you deal with repairing what's left and giving them a quality of life.
I know where you're going.
Okay?
I know where
So
you're going.
right now, in terms of our community, right? When we're dealing with parents, if we don't have programs available, funding available, and attendance from those who need the help, because 9 times out of 10, little Johnny that's in DYRS, that's going in and out of the system and all that, his parent needed parenting.
Hey,
Yes.
let me
Okay?
say this real
Even
quick.
today.
Let me say this,
Yes.
Nate. Y'all remember Batman, the fear part?
The what?
You remember that show, right? When Batman and they had the fear and everybody was fearing. I think Scarecrow was on there or something. And everybody was fearing. But here's the hit.
I'm out. You got me.
Batman went and got a solution, right? Then he spread it, right? It started spreading. So it was curing everybody. So the fear factor wasn't on them anymore. Now, we don't have that superhero stuff that Batman had, but we do have the components of Miss Green, Miss
Young-Meekins.
Young, yeah, and the people on the phones, and the man in the mirror panel. We can start. You said we solution based.
That's right.
So the solution based, we understand that we got to start educating the parents too. We know about the kids, so that's where we starting with. From this point on, when you get a chance one-on-one with one of those parents,
Get in there.
get in there.
Get in the fight.
Yeah, because if we can just get one at a time, and that person get one, just like we talk about the word of mouth.
Right.
is he spread just like that stuff Batman had. It's spread. But we gotta be vigilant and shoot when we got a shot.
That's true.
Because you get opportunities.
That's what I meant about cutting out the cancer. Right? We got to go where the problem is.
It's everything.
I think for 2 points. One, about being selfless and having love instilled in you when you have children.
Excuse me.
I can just say from my own experience, when I first had my first child, it wasn't a woo-hoo. It was a oh darn. Okay? And so it wasn't fear. It was just like, dag.
You messed that up.
Well, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
It was unknown.
It
right?
wasn't. It was the sense of responsibility that I think a lot of people don't have, and because it's hard
Right.
when you're young. You just
You don't know.
and you don't
And
know.
that's what I was saying.
And it's the unexpected.
Yeah.
And I can't say that my daughter, we've talked about this. I can't say that it was the love. It was just a sense of responsibility that was in me. She was now my responsibility. 2 sets kids later, now I understand the feeling between, and I love my daughter to death, and she is my twin, and
Yes, she
everything.
is.
She does what I do. She look like it's
So
just
you only
really
got
weird.
one girl?
I have 3 girls, 2 boys.
Okay.
But that's what she talking about. Is if she walked in that door, you say, Ebony left and came back.
And everybody always says she act just like you too, man. I just thought she was you. But it was the sense of responsibility that kicked in. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of parents nowadays, because throughout the decades and throughout time, every generation that's come along, there was a piece of responsibility that we let go, and it came with, I want them better
than me, right.
I can
Right.
I'm a proponent of that, because when I had my children, my dad used to, oh my God, the discipline used to be he was so militant, right? If you didn't wash the dishes, he'd come in at 3 o'clock in the morning banging on that daggone pot, get up, girl.
Yeah.
And you had to do the dishes. I'm not going to do that to my kids, right? So when I had my children, there was a piece of the responsibility
Taken
that
away.
I had that I took away from them. And so if we're thinking about the generations, look how many generations removed
from
with the
that.
crack era, the drug era, and everything that comes along. And as we remove one piece from each generation, now we end up where we are.
Well, that's whole nother show too, because the crack era was the biggest disconnect. For the
Like a lot of
family
kids
value.
without
Well, for our generation, but other generations can point to
How
other things.
about this? It affected the generations behind.
behind us. Correct.
It
Correct.
does.
Correct.
Because it was abyss.
Yeah, it was abyss. It was an abyss.
Abyss. I call it atomic bomb. Because before then, you did have the big mamas and the grandmamas in the
Absolutely.
house. And so when they did drop the ball, other people could raise
There was somebody to pick it up.
aunts. But when the crack era hit, on an average, in those urban areas,
environments.
it was no family.
You know what it did?
Anymore.
It started plucking off the pieces of the village that you would normally need and have. One thing that crack did that other drugs did not do, it did not have an age group.
Right.
It did not have an age group.
Right.
When heroin came in with the guys from Vietnam
It was
and all that,
sort of an age.
it was an age group with that early 20s to 30s
Yeah,
that
when
disappeared.
crack hit,
When crack hit, everybody got on it.
Was smoking.
Yeah, everybody got it. Had
Big mama was smoking.
Was-
Right.
no design. It started plucking off the goodness of it all family. But here's the other thing that we see, and it's not just the crack era, but Ebony made a good point about how we cheek off those pieces of responsibility throughout the generations that allowed that crack era to be as bad as it was, because we were less responsible than the folks before us that allowed that to happen and go on and propagate. So now, are you really, that's why I said it was a lie. Are you really making your child's life better than yours? No, you're not. It's a lie.
Time you think you are.
At the time, yeah. Because guess who you thinking about? Guess who you thinking like?
Yourself.
You're thinking like a child.
Oh, wow.
That's a parent thinking like a child. Because when did you first say that to yourself? When you were a child. When I get a child, they're going to have it better than me.
Yep.
And you keep that same childhood perspective until you become a parent.
Yep.
So,
And then you carry it out.
and you carry it out. So it's the wrong information being implied at the wrong time.
No, when you know better,
You do better. That's why when you get older, after 4 or 5 children, now you're a different parent.
When you talk about plucking away at the responsibility, I think that I think a lot of better life is material. I agree with you on the materialistic.
That's what they really talking about.
Because that's how we've been brainwashed. The more you have, the
better
your
you
life
are.
is.
Exactly.
Okay? But I think that when you start
But how did you get that more? No responsibilities.
The standards that we need to set, as the callers said, the values that we need to instill. In my generation, no never came out my mouth.
Yeah.
You couldn't do
My
it.
fa- And if it came out, my mama would back me so we can keep it moving. Now you can't hit your children there because they call the police on you.
No, you can hit your children. You can hit your children. Let me just say this. You can hit your children if you have that boundary, responsibility, ethic built early on. When you allow the outside influence into your house.
Or bail money.
My children would say to me, you can't hit me, and I say, call 911.
Now, call them now.
Call them now, because after I finish hitting you, you ain't gonna be able to dial them
We
people.
plucked away so
You
much.
did.
We plucked away the discipline.
Yeah.
We plucked away so much that
Come on.
I'm older than all of you all. And but
I
my
don't know what that means. I'm just joking. Because you look so young.
I appreciate that. I'm aware that well. I appreciate that. But in my generation, my dad. First of all, my dad was in charge of the house. It wasn't no ifs, ands, and buts.
So it wasn't a democracy.
No, it was dictatorship.
That's what I do.
But
Cuba.
my mom survived with she brought her role into it. But my dad laid down the law. That was it. And so I wish I would have raised up and said no.
And they
when he
didn't
told
tell
me to do something.
They want the same. They didn't disagree in front of
Right.
y'all, and that's another thing. You got a parent.
That's beautiful.
You got the two parents, and then
But what changed it?
when the child hears the mother and the father,
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
and, you know, and kids are manipulators
Yes,
too
they
now.
are.
They
We
go
play both
on.
ways.
Oh yeah, we supposed to. They supposed to.
That's what
But
they're
wait a minute.
supposed to do.
When did that? What changed that? Let me ask you
I
something.
think what
What
changed-
changed it?
The whole thing that we keep talking about, making it better for the next generation. We got too permissive.
But who told us what better was? It didn't come from your.
Media.
Thank you.
Society, yeah.
Media and society. It didn't come from our circle. It came from
Media.
people outside of the circle.
Yeah.
If you
It was
look
the people
into
called they.
Them people.
Yeah.
That don't even live in your house. That don't even know.
But guess what?
But it's
Families
every
like
decision
Danny's and
They
Keith's,
do.
And that's
families
what
like Danny's and Keith's, families like Ebony's, families like
Yeah.
Miss Ames on the line,
So,
families like yours,
So Danny and
Keith.
And Keith, you know, hey Keith, don't worry about it, man. My bad. Sometimes they forget our names. So Danny and Keith, they're giving a different narrative. You and your husband. You know, me and my wife today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I had to go through the practice. I didn't know, like they was saying, I didn't know.
You had to mature.
'Cause I didn't have that
Right.
that structure. So I didn't know. I went through on the job training.
I did too.
But here's one thing I want to say
started out
though.
with a
I'll-
group of kids that
I'll
single
say
children
this.
without a dad,
Right.
and I was a single mom. But then I eventually got married.
But here's one thing I want to say though. What she said, what Danny and Keith said, what she said, what everybody's kind of alluded to, is that old adage that says, "Free time is the devil's workshop." Right? Idle mind. So what happens with the idle mind of a child today? It's consumed with media, social media, television, so forth and so on, to the point that they become the babysitter.
So
Right?
here's the thing.
So let me just say now,
You know?
what they said on the phone with the success of their kids, I heard a lack of idle time. I know with my 15, there was a lack of idle time because Ms. Green covered a lot of it.
And that's why
I know with Ebony,
Boys and Girls
lack of
Club,
idle time.
YMCA,
Yes.
Right.
And even to this
Yes.
day, they're still very instrumental in
Yes.
my children. And I have, like my daughter, she's 12. She just turned 13. So I have a 21-year-old, 18-year-old, and 12. And I'm telling you, if I did not have YMCA and Boys and Girls Club to back me, because you know I work for a few.
Right.
I work for 2 laboratories,
Okay.
amongst other things. If I did not have that structure or that
Yes.
village,
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to
Yes.
work.
Absolutely.
I would be
So you were responsible enough to say,
I need help.
I need help.
Daddy.
There you go.
I need
There
help.
it is.
I need help.
I literally had to
Responsible
talk
enough to say.
one-on-one.
Open.
And Yoshi, which is YMCA, I had to talk to them one-on-one and break it down what
you need.
what my responsibilities are and what I need from you guys and can it
Yeah.
be provided.
Yeah.
And it was like, Miss Amy, we got your back.
Yeah.
And that's what we get ready to close in a couple, well, not a couple.
Yeah, and
but
Mr. Grimes is gonna step in
we gonna get Mr.
real
Grimes
quick.
to say something.
Mr. Grimes, you want to step on in the camera view right
You
here?
need to get over here.
Come on in here.
He's trying to run.
This the sage of the show. He been running our production when our production crew has been out. So we're going to invite Mr. Rodney Grimes for his last
we're gonna
15
mention
minutes.
his wife, Miss
Ms. Z is over there doing her thing, holding down the production.
How she feeling? She's a little
Yeah.
underwhelmed, but she's here. She's just so.
So, Mr. Grimes, tell us a little bit, because I know you're a father. You got some business
and
going on.
Papa's.
And grandfather.
Oh,
Well, I was sitting over there and I was really trying to hold my peace. But this message is to everyone out there that's listening. Parenting is just not because you gave birth to a child. Parenting is it's the village. And we got to remember that, you know, even when your children become adults, you still have a role to play. See, a lot of us are getting to a point, and we'll think that once they get a certain age, that they still know how to do it. But we still learning every day. So for all the parents that's out there, sometimes what you have to do is go back to know where you came from, to know where you're going. And when I say that, you go back to a point where you look at the way that they used to parent in the old days. Because we got lost in that era. And we got a lot of children that are parents today that didn't have parents before.
that's right.
And the parents before them got caught up in the whirlwind. We was talking about the drugs and things, and Nate, you brought that up about the different areas of the type of drugs. So I just wanted to put that in. I'm gonna jump back out. I was sitting over there, I was just spiritually thinking about some of the parents out there that's really trying to figure out where did you go wrong. You didn't go wrong. If you don't know, you don't know.
That's right.
But you can seek help today,
Allow someone to help.
right?
Allow someone to help.
And allow somebody to come in and
Allow the
believe.
help to help you.
Yeah.
That's
So I just wanted to put that in there. I am so excited about Man in the Mirror. This is a shameless plug. It's the show that matters.
Yes, it is.
talk
Yeah.
show. You done left that
The
up.
talk show that man.
And he the one.
And he the one that invented the plug, right?
Hey, but look, you guys, look, this has been a wonderful show. And we got a few minutes. I want each guest to have their final words. We got so much knowledge and experience here.
Let's
so
start
please, we're going to start with the people on the line. Go ahead.
We're going to start out with Miss Trotter. Miss Trotter, last words, and please tell the folks how they can reach you.
Okay, sure. So for anyone that's looking for a mentor program for youth and young adults that's in the Baltimore area, our contact number is 443-799-6529. If you would like to get more information, you can check out our website at www.speaklifetour.org. Again, that's speaklifetour.org. Again, on February 11th, which is a Saturday at 1 p.m., it's a free community event for all youth that either are already entrepreneurs or want to become an entrepreneur. No charge, it's free. We're going to have food for the young people, and we're going to just be pouring into them. So if anyone's in the surrounding areas, feel free to come.
All right.
Thank you. Miss Ames? Miss Ames, you still with us?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. If anyone is seeking mental health services, an adult, that is, but I do have a couple of people working under me who also sees children. And we are in Delaware on Kirkwood Highway. And if you want to reach us, we're at 302-276-8794. And that's Ames Counseling Services.
Thank you so very much, ladies. And Miss Eboni Young-Meekins. I'm sorry.
We got the
Our phone.
Oh,
Danny and Keith.
Danny and Keith.
I just want to say this, and I love what Mr. Grimes said, the young lady said, in reference to a village and introducing the kids to sport. the one thing that we do is over communicate. Because of technology nowadays, what we've learned to do, we do Zoom call with the family on Monday night with the immediate family, and then with the East Coast and West Coast family that Nate mentioned, we do that on Wednesday night. And we discuss any and everything.
Right.
And the one thing I would just say, over communicating, when you're raising kids, and like Mr. Grimes said, you never start raising your kids, surround them with other people who are going to say the same thing you're going to say. They may say it a different way, but just surround them with the same thing that you would say, and just have that embedded in them. And they just keep, and like, you know, you get like hypnosis. You keep hearing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and then eventually they do it. They follow it.
Yes,
And Nate know how to contact us. So if anybody need to follow up, just go to Nate.
All right.
We're his
Thank you,
15
Danny
kids. So
Keith. Danny, you got
Thanks
anything?
again.
Danny?
I piggyback on that, just the communication and listening to them and being there and available and read between the lines when because sometimes they won't straight up ask you for help, but they need it, and just read between the lines.
All right. Okay, Miss Ebony.
Don't beat yourself up. There's no perfect recipe. Just like everything in life, you have to train at it. It's a marathon. It is not a race. It's not a sprint. And, parenting is one of those things that as our culture evolves, it will evolve. So just develop values and principles and stick to those.
Miss Green?
For me, it's I want young parents to understand that they deserve to be successful.
Tell them, Miss Green.
They deserve to be successful.
Right.
Sometimes we don't do because we don't think that we should or that we don't deserve it. But young parents, you deserve to raise success. You deserve to be successful and then raise successful children. But you do have to ask for their help. But understand, it's a mindset that you need to begin to develop, that you deserve the best. You deserve to be successful.
Love it.
Amy Cakes? Ladies first.
Expose your kids to as much as possible. Something's going to grab hold of them. Something's going to pique their interest or whatever, and take your pride out of it too as a parent, because sometimes people don't want to allow a village to come in. Me personally, I'm very proud when it comes to my household and things like that, but at the same time, in order for me to progress and to also be able to provide, and by me being a single parent, I need help. I can't do everything on my own. So, I had reached out to some great friends and people that I've known that happen to be in these programs, like I was saying, and took mine under their wing and made sure that they were, like, their idle time was being monopolized. Like, all, like, thingamajig. I know you know about that. All types of different art programs and volunteer work, going to the White House, going to the House of Representatives, and just expose them to different cultures and travel. I couldn't do it all. So you gotta kind of get your pride out of the way and just say, I need help, and it's to better my children.
And then, if I can, it's expand your village. We need to get back to the village concept.
Yes.
But we need to define we need to make the definition of what that village is, and not let somebody else define village for
us.
us.
Their mouth sometimes, though, they don't
That's
understand.
so what?
It's a very
Did y'all hear what
private
Keith?
thing.
Y'all hear what Keith said though?
What's that?
Like,
Because that should be driven home.
What's that?
And I deal with that on my job.
What's that?
Should be saying the same things.
Repetition.
Successful structure.
Yeah.
A successful structure should be over and over and over repetition.
Well, I'm gonna end my comment with this. That lie that we tell ourselves that we want our child's life to be better than ours as parents. let's make that a truthful statement by understanding if I want my child's life to be better than mine, I can't do it by myself. I can only make it exactly like mine. If I want my child's life to be better than mine, I have to include other positive influences into it. Okay? So stop telling that lie. Leave my child alone, mind your business. Well, that child is my business. My taxpayers gonna feed him when he in jail. Okay? The trash he throw on the street, I gotta pay to get picked up. I pay for them books in that school he go to. You in charge of stewardship of that seed. I gotta get some of the beauty from the blossom of it. Let's work together to make sure that it is a beautiful blossom. Tell yourself the truth. You want your child to have a better life than you did. That means that you want to expand his life or her life by including more help.
I guess it's on me.
On you, quarterback.
Only thing, from my personal experience, it's doable. First of all, it's doable. You don't have to remain in like she was saying, you don't have to remain unproductive. You don't have to remain negative lifestyle. You don't have to remain whatever you are not what you did. You don't have to stay in that same framework. You don't have to use that same blueprint. So allow somebody to help you. And we all resonate the same thing. We're talking about the team aspect. So allow somebody to help you. Well, I'm speaking to the parents.
Yes.
Allow somebody to help you.
Yes.
If your house is out of order, it's usually the one who running the house. Now, if the kid is running the house,
It's definitely out of order.
it's definitely out of order. So, but if you saying that you the one running the house, then you got to look at the mirror.
Look in the mirror. See that what? The man in the mirror.
And we want to say this. We want to say we'll be back here the 23rd because we had to do this one. We'll be back the 23rd, and I'm not even going to tell you what's going to happen. But
Same bad time.
It's going to be
Same bad
It's
channel.
going to be expanding from what we're talking about here, and we maybe can get some of these guests to call in because we're gonna do it again. And this is man in the mirror, THEE, because it's personal. You got to look in there for yourself.
And it's the what?
It's the what, y'all?
It's the talk show that matters. I want to thank our guests, Miss Catherine Trotter, Miss Regina Ainge, Miss Eboni Young-Meekins, Miss Teresa Green, for gracing us, blessing us with your presence, your knowledge, and your information. Danny and Keith calling in. I want to thank everyone, all the listeners and watchers out there. Man, look. Parenting, that's a verb. Ting makes it an action word.
It's an action word.
All right? You're a parent, but are you parenting?
That's right.
Right.
Having a baby just makes you a mom and dad. Don't make you a parent.
So look, as we do here, it's like you do it as a parent. Because the viewers, they see what we do. The kids see what the parent do. So what we want to lead is by what? Example. So it's not the life we live on this set. It's the life we live once we leave out this door.
Exactly.
It's going to make a difference.
Peace and blessings to everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Great show, everyone. Thank you so very much. All right.
It was really good.
Hey, we're going to take a picture.
Ladies, thank you so very much, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. We'll be back on the 23rd, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Ladies,
guys.
have a great
Thank you,
evening,
guys.
and thank you again.
Thank you, Danny and Keith. There you go.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, Nate.
Oh, it's all good, man. Love you, baby.
Mr. Grimes,
God bless.
All
let me say
right.
this to you. You know that you're in the office of somebody important when there's two pictures on the wall. Marion Barry and Chuck Brown. Don't need nobody else.
That's that DC in you. That's that DC.
Hey, but how about this, though?
My forever mayor. My forever mayor.
How about this
My
one?
forever
How about this?
mayor. And I grew up with Chuck Brown,
How about
so
this?
you know.
How about this? How about this? How about this? Another viewpoint. Chuck Brown and Mary Berry on the pitch with Rodney Grimes.
Yeah, how about that?
Why we still here?
You know what I'm saying?
When I look at Soda Man, I was like I said, I know Chuck Brown somewhere on this wall.
He got drilled, but he in the picture with everybody.
He got Boo Jones up
Yeah, this
there.
is cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Grimes.
Very cool.
Oh, me.